Welcome back to RGES Pre-Algebra, Lesson 33B. This will be Part 2, and I am Mrs. Kinzer, and we're going to continue our review on Chapter 4 for the final exam. So we have a few more ideas now. Let's go to the concept of when you multiply and divide with exponents. So here would be an example. What if I had x to the third over x to the seventh? Remember what that means. The base is x, and I'm multiplying it by itself 3 times, 1, 2, 3. In the denominator, the base is x, and I'm multiplying it by itself 7 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I canceled, I would end up with 4 in the denominator. So I'd say 1 over x to the fourth. Now I could just write it out each time and do that, but that's a little bit lengthy. So hopefully you picture that in your head. You're saying, okay, I have 3 in the top, I have 7 in the bottom, so I have more in the bottom. How many more? 4 more. So I can make this simpler. I could say x to the fifth over x to the ninth. I have more in the bottom, so it'll be 1 over. How many more? Just like that. I have 7 in the top and 2 in the bottom. I have more in the top, and how many more? 5 more. See? Just like that. Okay. If I had a number in front of it, like 5x to the 6, whoops, I don't want a 5. Let's do something more interesting here that I can work with. Let's say 18x to the 6 over 3x squared. For the number part, simply divide. 18 divided by 3 is 6. For the variable part, do what we just did. I have more in the top. How many more? 4 more. If I had done it this way instead, divide your number just like you know. 18 divided by 3 is 6. I have more in the bottom. How many more? 4 more. What if I had done it this way instead? Divide my number. By the way, okay, 3 divided by 18 is not 6, it's 1/6. Or I could think of it this way. Start with the big number, 18 divided by 3, but put it in the bottom. Okay? Or think 1/6. Either way, but be careful. That's a common mistake. Students are going to want to put the 6 like they did over here. Don't do that. Your 18's in the denominator, not the numerator. More in the denominator. How many more? X to the 6. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. Of course, I could put lots of numbers. I'll just give you one more example. I could put lots of variables. Let's say I said 25 over 5 x squared, x to the third, y to the fifth, y squared, and z over z, something like that. Do it one step at a time. What's my number? 25 divided by 5 is 5 in the numerator. Look at my x's. More in the denominator. How many more? 1. Look at my y's. More y's in the numerator. How many more? Look at my z's. They cancel each other out. And that's the end. Right there. Okay. All your sign issues still apply. Let's just look at what if I had several of the same thing. What if I had 2x squared y 3x y to the fifth, 5x to the fifth z squared. Simplify that. What would I do? Well, I would take my three numbers and I would multiply them, because this is multiplication. 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 5 is 30. I would look at all my x's. How many x's do I have? 2 and 1 more, that's 3, and 5 more is 8 x's. That's x to the 8th. I would look at all my y's. I have 1 and 5 more, that's 6. I would look at all my z's. I have 2 of them. So what you end up doing is, it's like you're adding exponents. When I'm multiplying, I'm adding exponents. Why? Because if I said x squared times x to the 7th, this means x times x, that's the squared, times x, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So how many do I have in all? I have 9. So that's like adding my exponents. But I don't want you to just memorize the fact that you add. I want you to understand that you add. And this is the picture of why I'm adding. All right? The last thing we're going to talk about is solving equations. There's two things we need to worry about when we're solving equations. We want to think about what is the opposite operation. In other words, what is the operation that will leave just the x on the left side? So I need to take everything else to the right side. And then I need to think about order of operations. Now, we developed this a lot, so this is just going to be my review rather than reteaching the whole idea. If I have x plus 5 equals 7, I want the x to be by itself, so I need to take this away. What is the opposite of adding 5? 7 minus 5. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. So I've moved that to the right side, and then I simplify. 7 minus 5 is 2. If I had x minus 3 equals 2, what's the opposite of subtraction? Adding. So I would say 2 plus 3. So I've moved it over here, and then I want to simplify. What is 2 plus 3? 5. I'm kind of going through this rather quickly because we've done it a lot this year. Okay, so I'm trusting that you understand. If I have 3x equals 15, what's the I'm right here, I'm multiplying. 3, that means the same as 3 times x. What's the opposite of multiply? Divide. So on the other side, I would divide by 3 rather than multiplying by 3. And x equals 5. Whoa, that's weird. Hang on, I gotta figure out to go away with what I just did. There we go. All right, now let's, the last thing of the basic operations here. What if I had 2/3 times x equals 10? The opposite of multiplying by a fraction is to multiply by its reciprocal. Cancel. X equals 15. Cancel. There we go. X equals 15. So though all those are my single operations, there's 5 of them. Then we could have something a little more complicated. What if I had instead 2 operations? And this question becomes, what do I have to? I have to get rid of both the 3 and the 5. The question is, which do I deal with first? Because it matters. It matters. I cannot just choose whichever one I want. I must get rid of the addition and subtraction before I get rid of the multiplication. That's the key. Okay? So don't forget that. So the first thing I'll do is the opposite of addition is subtraction. I'd simplify. 43 minus 3 is 40. Then I would get rid of this. The opposite of multiply is divide. Divide, rather than multiply by 5, I'm going to divide by 5. And then I would simplify again. 2 steps. Let me practice another one with you. I have 2 things I need to get rid of, a 4 and a -7. What do I do first? Always the plus or minus first, and then the multiply or divide. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this one. Now, rather than subtracting 7, I'm going to add 7. So take 9 plus 7. Simplify. Rather than multiplying by 4, I'm going to divide by 4 on the other side. Simplify again, and x equals 4. You can always check your answer. Remember how? Plug it back in. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 minus 7 is 9. Okay. Let's go ahead and work. A couple other ideas are coming to my mind on how this could be a little more complicated. The first thing, when you see 2 numbers, you have to decide what I do first. Addition and subtraction always before multiplication and division. So now that you've decided that, do the opposite. What's the opposite of plus 2? Copy down everything else. Subtract 2 from the right side. Simplify. Now go to the next one. What's the opposite of dividing by? 3 is multiply by 3 on the opposite side. Simplify, and x equals 15. That should be my answer. Go back and check it. Go back to the original problem. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. Of course, you could always have signed mixes. Oh, the last idea, let's say we had 4x minus 9 equals 7x plus 4. Well, I need to take this. I want all my x's. This is a little different thinking now. All the x's go to the left, all the variable to the left, all the numbers to the right. So I need to put my number goes to the right, my variable goes to the left. What would that look like? What's the opposite of subtracting 9? Adding 9. So I'd get 4 plus 9. What's the opposite of 7x? If it's no sign, it is a plus sign. So the opposite of plus 7x is minus 7x. Simplify the left side. What is 4 minus 7? Negative 3x. See, those signs never go away. What is 4 plus 9? 13. I still need to get rid of this. I only want an x there. What's the opposite of multiplying by a negative? This is being multiplied, right? Because there's nothing between that 3 and my x. The opposite of multiplication is division. I want to divide by a negative 3. The only thing I would change there is I always like to, in my final answer, never write the negative sign in the denominator. So go ahead and write it in the numerator. Make sure again that you are studying your quizzes and tests for Chapter 4. Now, I will have word problems. There will be 10 points worth of word problems out of 100. Okay, so there will be 10 points of word problems on your final. So don't ignore these word problems. Let me go ahead and just explain the ones on your test again. 5 less than twice a certain number. 5 less means you're going to subtract 5. You're going to subtract 5 from twice a certain number. A certain number is x. So this reads 2 times x minus 5. That's the same as saying 5 less than twice a certain number is this my equal sign, 17. Then I would just solve it like we've always solved it. There's step 1. There's step 2. Right? Add 5 to the opposite, to the right side, simplify, then divide by 2, simplify. Let's look at number 2 on the word problems on your test. Again, is what I'm reviewing. Ross missed 2 more questions than Sam. So if Sam missed X questions, then Ross missed 2 more. We can think about it that way. Together, they missed 7 questions. Now, what do we mean when we say together? Together means if I add the number Sam missed plus the number Ross missed, I would get how many in all. They missed 7. So then what would you do? You would combine that. X plus x is 2x plus 2 equals 7. Now I'm back to one of these kinds of problems. Do that first, do that second. Then when you solved it, you've solved for x, and go back and interpret it. If you solve for x, that's how many Sam missed, and then how many Ross missed would be 2 more than that. The third question says something like this. It says, separate the number 23 into 2 parts. For that, I like to think about a board. I'm separating it into 2 parts. It's 23 in all. Separate the number 23 into 2 parts so that the second number is 4 less than twice the first number. So if my first number is x, my second number is 4 less than twice the first number. See it? What are the 2 numbers? Well, I know that this part plus this part together equals this. So my formula or my equation would say x, that's the first part, plus 2x minus 4, that's my second part, all equals 23. How would I do that problem? I would have to combine my x's first. I would write this as 3x minus 4 equals 23. I recognize that as one of my 2-step problems. Do that first, that second. When I'm finished, what have I solved for? The first part. How would I figure out the second part? I'd multiply it by 2 and subtract 4. So study those very, very carefully. I promise you at least 1, if not 2, if not 3 word problems based on those 3 questions. The same as, numbers will be changed, but the same ideas as in Chapter 4 test. That's your homework. Chapter 4 tests and quizzes. Study them well. Go back. That's why you have your notebook with all your answers. Okay, God bless. We'll be doing more review next Monday and Wednesday, and then we'll send your exam. Have a wonderful day, guys.